Two-time Super Bowl champ, one of the great backers, certainly of his generation and Giant lore. And he's part of the broadcast team here on the Fan, analyst for a long time, Carl Banks. Carl, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man. Good afternoon or good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Going good.
Carl, what did you do in your bye weeks when you guys had bye weeks back in the day?
It was bubble wrap, bro. It was like go home, get mom's home cooking. I was moving a lot differently, like only close friends. I'm not partying. If anything's happening, staying at the house. It's really unfortunate what has happened with Xavier McKinney. And, I know no one feels worse than he does because he's one of the team leaders. And I'm sure he feels like he let his teammates down. The thing is, Tiki and Brandon and Bob Papa mentioned, we were doing our Believe podcast this morning. He mentioned it. Maybe it's not a bad thing if you want to go away, but anything that requires you signing a waiver, you should stay away from, right? The worst you should worry about, the only thing you should worry about if you go to an island on your off day is getting food poison. That should be the biggest risk. But
or sunburn.
Yeah, or sunburn. But it's like I don't advocate because you're in season. The season isn't over with. So those are not true vacations. So if you want to recharge, regenerate, refresh, do that. Walk in the water, relax, right? Yeah. But as innocent as a tour was, it turned out to be something bad. And you probably had to sign a waiver to get on that machine.
Yeah.
Right. So it's unfortunate, but it's a cautionary tale. Like if you have a bye week, it's not a vacation week. You're in season. And for the Giants, they have a lot on the line. And they're not constructed to be, we can lose a guy and just keep plowing along.
Yeah.
And they don't have that big of a cushion, especially with the division coming up at the end of the season.
Well, Carl, how should they handle this then? How should the Giants handle this?
Medically they've handled it.
Yep. What about the other? If anything else?
I don't know if there's going to be a discipline thing. I mean, he's not.
You think there should be though, Carl?
He's not a reckless kid, but think about this. The designation of non-football related injury gives them some protections in terms of how they pay him, during this period. That's why in every player contract, these types of things are prohibited.
Yeah, and clearly defined.
Right, and clearly defined. And so when you get a non-football related injury, you trigger it triggers certain protections for the team. So if they choose not to pay him, there's not a lot of recourse because it's clearly defined in contracts. But I don't think they want to be punitive to him for the bad judgment. And I take him at his word that is exactly what happened.
Yeah, and by the way, Carl, listen, everybody's entitled to their opinion. There's things that I say that people disagree with. I get it. But I do think, for some, the vitriol has been a little bit much. It's not like he got pulled over doing 97 miles per hour with a half-empty bottle of vodka and a loaded handgun. Now, what bothers me the most, and this is really the only thing that bothers me, because, what happened, it was slightly irresponsible. I get that. But how he handled it yesterday, I thought it was a little immature. And not where they should take money away, not that it should be punitive, to use your word. I agree. But there was a lack of professionalism. Like he became almost antagonistic with the media, and that's a bad look for a guy who just made a mistake.
Yeah, I didn't see the entire interview. I just saw clips of it. But, when these things happen, their media members want their pound of flesh. They're going to do their job, right? So they're going to continue to ask until they get the answer that they want or until they get some level of contrition from the athlete. I think he was forthcoming. The pieces I saw.
Well, let me play it for you. Carl, I'm going to play it for you. It's only 20 seconds. I want you to exactly. Okay, here we go, guys.
You weren't driving it? You said you were riding?
Sightseeing tour.
Were you driving? So it's a sightseeing tour. How many times do I need to say that?
Sorry,
I don't
sometimes
get it.
Okay,
can
you don't
write
have
your
to
own.
get it. I'm saying, you see, you hear what I'm saying? Or do you hear what I'm telling you? Sightseeing tour.
I
Next
guess in
question.
some of those tours they give you your own to drive, and sometimes you sit in the back of one. So what was the situation?
Sightseeing tour.
Okay. What'd you think?
Again, the members of the media were doing their job. They wanted more. He didn't give them more.
A little immature, though? I thought that was a little immature.
Maybe not. Maybe he just didn't want to go through it. I mean, from where you sit, if you're holding that microphone, it's totally immature. From where he stands in within his organization, he probably handled it the way he wanted to so that it would not go on and on and on. Because if he said he was driving it, then the questions would be, why were you driving it, right?
And what did
right
you
now,
do? What did you do to cause the accident? And
were you going fast?
Yeah.
It just goes on and on and on. But it sounded like Jordan Renan that was asking a question. I don't knock him for asking it, but I think what McKinney tried to do was to contain the narrative. You know, the damage is done. Here I am. I'm out. It was a sightseeing tour. And I see the look on your face, Brandon, and you should have it as a journalist, right?
No.
I see it. And you're going to have something. You're going to be like, that wasn't enough. It's never
I'm
enough.
looking up sightseeing tours right now.
I'm not a
ATV
journalist.
Sightseeing tours in Cancun.
I don't pretend to be one. No, you know what it is, Carl?
I mean, a combo.
Tiki and I role played, or we just did the, like we messed around an hour ago, and Tiki was asking me how I would have handled. And again, we don't. Then we can move on. I'm not trying to crush the kid unnecessarily, but I thought, like, if you're asked that, you can diffuse it rather than inflame it with a little bit of an antagonistic, aggressive approach. All you got to say is this. Hey, listen, guys. You know, I told you what happened, and I'm just going to move on. Instead, it was just aggressive. But again, I think he's a good kid. I'm not
I don't
trying to
even
crush
think
him.
that was aggressive because he was so soft-spoken about it. But the thing is,
He was trying
you
to be
never
firm.
move on.
He was trying
It'll
to be
never
firm.
be enough.
Yeah,
It would never be enough.
He was trying to be firm without being firm. So
Exactly.
I get
Exactly.
it. Well, let's move it forward because it looks like now Dane Belton, rookie from Iowa, is going to get a lot of burn. But he's already played a lot. He got 193 snaps or so in the 8 games that they've played. What's going to change? We know Jordan Love, because we talked to him yesterday, is the green dot. And that is the play caller defensively. But what changes schematically without Xavier McKinney? Or does this team, is it crafted and coached in such a way that interchangeable parts actually, they're still going to be okay?
Well, they do a lot. I mean, you're okay, but you're not better without him. You know that.
Yes.
The good news is you have some flexibility because you have Landon Collins, who's played in the back end, who in certain situations you can put him in there because he can, he has a certain level of anticipation and schematic knowledge of how offenses run instead of putting Dane back there, or they can help him get lined up. So having Landon Collins there is a plus, but it's also a minus because I was looking forward to seeing Landon Collins at the second level, at the linebacker level, especially in some of their passing situations. So now it probably weakens them a little bit in terms of what they can do. But, I mean, look, Wink does a pretty good job of interchanging parts anyway and giving different looks. They won't be predictable, that's for sure, because everyone's going to want to know what Dane Belton's role is going to be.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you say that because you're right, Landon Collins, and I kind of forgot he was on the practice squad, but he is there. He's more of a box safety, whereas when it was Xavier and Julian, they could be interchangeable. Both those guys could be in the box or back deep as a free safety. As this team moves into this second half, Carl, you know this just by looking at the schedule. It's going to get harder. Right? The Eagles are 8-0. Minnesota 7-1. They have the Bills this weekend. Dallas is really good. Washington is I know they're kind of enigmatic, but it's definitely harder. How do they continue to play the same way? And BT and I talked about this briefly. How do they play the same way that is slow, take the air out of the ball, not really trying to score a ton of points, just trying to bend, not break? Can they keep doing that and keep winning?
They can. The thing is, Tiki, with what they'll have to do is have some field tilting plays. Yeah. Whether it's with a Darius Slayton, who has now been able to impact the game either via pass interference or a big play, it's hard for offenses, and you know this. If you got to go 15, 17 plays, you got to be damn near perfect because something's going to happen. There's going to be a offsides. There's going to be a legal formation, something. So they've got to have a player or two that can shift the field for them. They got to have a 20-yarder, a 30-yarder somewhere so that they can get close to scoring position. So as methodical as they are, there was always that Saquon Barkley 25-yard run or the scramble by Daniel Jones that gets, kind of changes field position before they stall and kick a field goal or they're in the red zone and they can get some things done. So they can continue to play that way. They just got to have guys that can step up. Slayton has to continue. And I'm really hopeful with Kenny Golladay, right? I don't think he's washed, but I think he's got to be his best self, whatever that is for this offense and wherever he is in his career. He has to be his best self.
Yeah. Carl, are you getting any indication that – because they're saying it's injury. I don't know if it's fully injury or if it's just whatever. Are you getting any indication that he could play more and get snaps, get targets?
I'm getting an indication that he may be playing this weekend.
That's a good thing.
That'll be a plus.
Is it?
Because he's got more
really?
experience.
Will it definitely? I'm not trying to be cute. Will it definitely be a plus? I mean, you said that he doesn't have to be his best self. Just don't be his worst self.
No, I said he has to be.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that that's the case. Just don't be your worst self, which is what he's been since the moment he signed here.
Right. I'll say it, and I've had my criticisms of him, but he's not washed.
Yeah.
Wherever he is in this career, he will make a contribution for this team if he can be whatever he is at this stage of his career. If he could be his best self at that stage, he's a plus for this offense.
Can you give us 20 seconds? Because, listen, it comes to this stuff, I'll always defer to you guys. You played, I didn't. And I'm not just trying to be confrontational or whatever. When you say he's not washed, from where I sit, I've been saying that he's washed. Why am I wrong? Because we've seen nothing. Zero.
He hasn't been healthy. I spent a lot of time at the training camps.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
This past training camp, and I can tell you he's not washed.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
But
He's
you also can see that he's not healthy.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. I got you.
It's disappointing, but it kind of just is what it is at this point. There's nothing anybody can do about it.
There he is, Carl Bay. Hey, we're going to see you at the Johnny's game Saturday night or what? You coming?
I may be there.
All right,
I got
man.
it circled.
Nice.
I love
All right.
it. Good
Appreciate
job,
you,
dude.
Carl.
Thank you, guys.
There he
Good,
is.
man.